Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Michael J. How you doing?
I am doing well. Almost as well, I'd say, as Guilds of Ravnica in Modern.
Oh yeah, that's pretty well.
Yeah, it's doing some damage. It looks like.
Yeah, we should dive into Modern because this new set it's got some impact, right? Like first of all, it's without any question. I mean, we've got Assassin's Trophy's got to be step one, right?
You think?
You don't think?
Trophy? No, I had a different thing. I mean, we can talk
step
about
one. I'm saying like the level 0 most obvious card.
Oh,
not necessarily most impactful, just like literally most talked about in this context.
Oh, sure, yeah. Assassin's Trophy looks to be like the inheritor of I don't know, Path to Exile, but in
Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's everything you'd ever want as long as you don't care if your opponent searches for a basic land, which is like low likelihood that even messes you up in Modern. Like some decks don't have any basic lands, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And other ones, they might have so many basic lands that it doesn't matter. And other ones, you just push and push and push anyway until they run out of basic lands. So in sum, yes, that card should be dope in Modern.
I mean, where else are you seeing it besides Jund? Like, do you think it's going to be a part of some sort of theoretical? Like, obviously, it's going to be in some kind of like Jund deck, right? And Death Shadow, I would guess.
Well, when you say
actually, this weekend's winner won with Death Shadow with Assassin's Trophy out of the board.
Well, I was just going to ask you, when you say Jund, do you mean Jund and Abzan and Golgari, like, you know, aka the Rock, like all of those as a family being kind of one big family, or did you mean actually Jund, like actually the red Golgari deck?
I mean actually Jund. And I think the same would be true for Golgari as well. It's a lot less true for Abzan, but maybe it should be true. Maybe at a certain point, who cares? Just Path and Trophy them forever. But like in actual Jund, it's super, super, super nice being able to hit things that cost more than 3.
What a luxury. I mean? Yeah.
And the big tension, though, that I think is really interesting, Blood Moon has been a frequent fixture in Jund decks, and Assassin's Trophy and Blood Moon kind of go different directions.
Well, I was kind of thinking a different thing, which is, yes, that's true. At the same time, I think that the escape hatch that Assassin's Trophy offers you might still be welcome enough, even if it's, you know, somewhat conflicting with Blood Moon. But, you know, Jund is the kind of deck that you could just get behind the wrong permanent, right? I'm talking about a Karn, an Ugin, you know, like big
Urza's Tower.
An Urza's Tower could possibly qualify. All those cards might all be in the same deck. What I'm saying is, you don't want to be on the wrong end of an Ugin with Jund. Assassin's Trophy.
It's Teferi too. I think Teferi is actually a deceptively big deal. If you're playing a Jund deck, yeah, you got a lot of ways to attack it, you know, Bloodbraid Elf and Lightning Bolt and whatnot. But really, if somebody just sticks a Teferi or a Jace the Mind Sculptor, they can sometimes do some damage to you. And I think that Assassin's Trophy is like such a good way to punish somebody who drops their Planeswalker and pluses it.
Yeah, I think that's...
I also think when you're playing Dark Confidant, you're really, like, your deck that's like turn 2 Dark Confidant, turn 3 Liliana of the Veil, turn 4 Bloodbraid Elf, you're not back against the wall needing to eke out every bit of card advantage you can. You got some of that already in the bank.
So, just for my own mental space, I've just jumped over to the winner of Invitational Qualifier last weekend, David Shawn, who won with Jund. He, in fact, played 2 copies of Assassin's Trophy in the main deck. No Dark Confidant in this build, but I just want to have a Jund deck in front of me while we discuss kind of these concepts. Yeah, I think that I think you're right. The card advantage going on the wrong way is less of a deal to Jund decks because so many of their other cards from Bloodbraid Elf, Dark Confidant, like you mentioned, or in this deck, Tireless Tracker, Kolaghan's Command. They're just building it. They have just every card is just a self-contained advantage engine, so you can just kind of catch back up. In some cases, you're going like Kolaghan's Command, and then rebuy a Bloodbraid Elf, for example. That's just a massive amount of card advantage you could be snowballing back. A single basic land is just paling in comparison to something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the fact that you can do it at instant speed and with so little mana needed to be held up. I mean, an example of the Jund deck that I was kind of talking, the Dark Confidant style, top 16 from the Classic was Ryan Scott's list. Ryan Scott was playing a relatively just classic Jund, cards with 3 Dark Confidant, 3 Scavenging Ooze, 4 Tarmogoyf, 4 Bloodbraid Elf. But again, here 3 Assassin's Trophy.
Sure.
Yeah, but even the one you're describing, has actually got a little bit more sweetness, right? Over in that spell.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's an accident why you picked this one.
Oh, well, I wouldn't have thought to put these cards together, but now that I've seen it, I can't say that I can argue with the man. Bloodbraid Elf into Risk Factor. What do you think?
I mean, Risk Factor is pretty intense out of Jund.
I would have never considered doing this myself, but I honestly don't think Jund is offensive enough for Risk Factor. Do you?
I don't think so either. I don't think so either.
I think I would just take my pencil out and mark 4 life down and be happy that I a more meaningful hit.
I think you just don't have a leg to stand on. Like when you don't have 4 lightning bolts in your deck yet. Like, how are we at the Risk Factor portion of your burn suite?
All right, so nobody does this in Modern. People did it frequently in Standard, though. But I'm just literally specifically just talking about Jund. Just Jund, right? Not other decks that might be able to summon a 3-cast.
Not a game. Jund, got it.
How does Risk Factor compare to, Blightning, right? Like, for one more, like, the value of 1 point of damage to the opponent's face versus 2 cards seems like I would want the Blightning much more often than Risk Factor in a deck that's just not that offensive. Like, he's got Tireless Tracker and Scavenging Ooze. This is, these are value guys, not punch you in the face guys.
Yeah, my worry with a deck like this is that you can a bunch of the cards in the deck can be kind of offensive or could be kind of card advantage-y, but it's a little awkward to let your opponent decide how to split it.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I do like, I don't hate at all. I'm going to discard Risk Factor to Liliana of the Veil.
Oh.
That's actually kind of sweet, right?
That's fantastic. At the same time, I would just say Risk Factor just goes along with that theme of cards that are sometimes offensive and sometimes card advantage-y.
No, but I'm saying it lines up wrong. It's like, okay, you
Yes.
know the rock experience if you just don't want the cards to line up wrong? Risk Factor pretty much guarantees that that's the case.
Yeah, so you're just your momentum is going a certain direction, and then the Risk Factor is just going to be the opposite direction. Like, if you got the beatdown draw, they're going to let you draw, and if you're getting the card advantage draw, they're going to take 4.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just never what you want.
Yeah, in terms of graveyard cards, though, dude, there's a different burn spell that has got my eye for Modern. Ian Thorne's Dredge deck came in second from the Open this past weekend. 4 copies of Creeping Chill. That's a Dredge card, baby.
This is when I said, let's talk about Modern, that's what I was thinking about. Creeping Chill seems to have taken over Modern. There are 2 Dredge decks in the top 8, and then an additional...
Whoa, that's taken over.
No, but then an additional I was going to say 4, but it's only an additional 2 in the top 16. But then at 17th and 18th, they're also dredge.
Oh, yeah.
But there just hasn't been dredge, So, second and third.
And this is a very specific style of dredge.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just a given that dredge is a 4 Shriekhorn kind of super duper turbo.
They are not messing around. Shriekhorn and Creeping Chill. So
love it.
So their whole strategy is just to Creeping Chill you for 12 and get the last points in with Conflagrate, it looks like. At least sometimes.
Yeah, some. I mean, there's also you can attack. Like Narcomoebas and Bloodghasts, they give beats too.
Yeah, sure. The last time I played against Dredge in Modern, I actually think was 2 or 3 years ago, and I think I took most of my damage from the Conflagrates. But yeah, this whole strategy around the Creeping Chill requires more data for me. This looks awesome, though. I'm tapping my chest with my fists and giving all respect to Ian Thorne and the rest of the Dredge adventurers.
Oh yeah, and there were a lot of them. They didn't really get anything else though, right? I guess Assassin's Trophy is a nice
sideboard.
Yeah, Assassin's Trophy is a nice get.
It's solid.
Yep.
You want to jump back to the winner though, the 4-color Death Shadow deck, Peter Holman.
Sure.
So he had Assassin's Trophy in the sideboard, like you mentioned. But I just want to get your kind of take your temperature on Death Shadow versus Jund. I've been of the opinion for, I don't know, a year plus in Modern that Jund is just kind of like the version of Jund Death Shadow. And Jund Death Shadow is just the version of Grixis Death Shadow. So what do you think about that sort of thing where it's oh, well, I'm just going to play regular Jund, but why would you play regular Jund if you could play with Death Shadow? Right? Is that a wrong way of thinking about the archetypes?
Yeah, I think they just have different matchups. For instance, there are if you're playing Jund, you've got a lot. First of all, I don't think Jund is a very the crux of your position, we might just be already on the same page which is that I think that Death Shadow has been tier 1 and Jund has not, and they share a lot of cards in common. I think that Jund lets you play a little bit different of a game, and that they have slightly different matchups. So depending on what kind of style of game you're looking to play and what you expect the field to play, I don't think it's crazy. I think the 25th best deck in Modern is in the same ballpark as the 7th best deck.
Well,
but I do think that in general, Death Shadow is better than Jund.
Well, I was just thinking, from my vantage point of watching matches as well as playing a fair number of Modern tournaments, it feels to me like Death Shadow, even just Jund Death Shadow, this deck obviously has got Stubborn Denial in it, is just can do almost everything Jund can do, but it's just way faster offensively. Obviously,
but the difference is it's got better cards.
Well, it doesn't have Bloodbraid Elf. This deck doesn't have Bloodbraid Elf
or Dark Confidant, it's like the actual Jund deck. The individual card quality is just so high. I'm not talking risk factor Jund, but if you're just
risk factor is a solid
Scavenging Ooze, Bloodbraid Elf. More Inquisition type of card. Although, I don't know, you can play a bunch of that stuff. More Lilianas.
Peter Holman's deck has got 4 Inquisitions. He's got some Lilianas. He's got Scavenging Ooze. He just doesn't have as many, right? Because he
doesn't have Bloodbraid Elf or Dark Confidant.
He does not have Bloodbraid Elf.
Dark Confidant's even on theme.
That is true, but the thing is, you need the theme. You need the theme in a very narrow lane, right? You can't be outside the lane. And Dark Confidant has a mind of his own sometimes. And
nothing in this deck costs any mana. You're not even going to get to take that much damage.
Strazit Razaith.
Right.
You not want to flip that guy.
Yeah, you do. Dude, that's +7/+7.
Maybe. Or it might be just shuffling up for game 2 sometimes.
Well, it's definitely 7, one way or the other.
So, yeah, but when you're playing Eidolon of the Great Revel, the Death Shadow and the Jund matchups are pretty similar for you. So that's my whole vantage point.
Sure. Hey, dude, do you think we could play Experimental Frenzy in Jund?
In Jund in Modern?
Yeah.
I think you could play Experimental Frenzy in a new
the sideboard?
I don't think you played in Jund.
No, I'm just saying, like, of course I think you want to play it in a new deck also. I'm just saying, do you think you could sideboard one of these? This is like a way to get a little bit, like, it's like, you know how you sometimes sideboard an extra Planeswalker or two?
Yeah.
That's the thing I'm talking about, is sideboarding an Experimental Frenzy is one of those slots.
Well, I guess, like, Jund decks have a fair number of fetch lands, right? So,
they have a lot of fetch lands. You also, Experimental Frenzy... as a okay, so if you have Liliana of the Veil, dude, you weren't playing the cards out of your hand anyway.
The thing that I don't like about it is there are just so many cards that are stops in the Jund deck, right? Like, what if there's nothing you want to Maelstrom Pulse?
That's not that okay, so you have, like, what, maybe one Maelstrom Pulse?
Well,
I'm saying that when you board in Experimental Frenzy, you're doing so in situations in which, you just really... I guess every one of those, though, like, it's like you would want it in, like, a Jund mirror match, and sometimes Terminate is a stop, and sometimes Fatal Push is a stop, and...
Yeah.
All right.
I think I always imagine this deck... It could even be a standard deck, right? So I haven't done anything to develop it, but it's probably better in Modern. But a deck that's just like Experimental Frenzy and then like a ton of duresses, right? Like just tons of cards that are super high impact that only cost 1 mana. And then you just kind of go off the top of your library. I think that's a thing, and I think that Jund has a lot of that, right? Like this deck has got like Inquisition, Thoughtseize, could have duress. You can play like super cheap interactive cards like Surgical Extraction. Collective Brutality is, pretty inexpensive. Actually, Collective Brutality off the top also gives you something to do with the cards in your hand, right?
Actually, 1, yes, that's true and awesome. 2, what if we were Mardu instead of Jund? Like, Lightning Helix is a lot more proactive than Assassin's Trophy or Abrupt Decay, and Lingering Souls is pretty dope. Like, being able to use it proactively, but also if you just discard it to all these Collective Brutalities and the Lianas, you're getting even more mileage.
Yeah, I think I like that better. I'm not sure what green is really getting you. Like, I was just thinking like red and black together, but maybe the mana's probably super easy to be Mardu, and you get some.
Well, you want to play a billion fetches anyway.
Yeah, I mean, just getting Lingering Souls, if that's the only thing you're doing, is probably pretty good. Yeah,
I bet Helix is all right.
You're not going to argue, you're not going to get an argument rather from me about Lightning Helix. That's always going to be a solid.
So speaking of Boros decks or Boros cards, Tajic Legion's Edge getting his first top 8.
Yeah.
Kevin Ambler playing humans with 2 copies of Tajic Legion's Edge for the beatdown.
Yeah, I thought that was a really unusual choice in humans. I checked out like many of the other performing humans decks, and I think Kevin was alone in his adoption of Tajic.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Tajic here?
Well, here's the thing, right? Tajic's got haste, and there's tons of cheap guys that are smaller than 3 power. I think like Tajic's just going to get a good trigger off a fair amount of the time. Also, I think there's good tricks that you can do. Like, let's say you have like mana open, you can drop Tajic from Aether Vial and then give it first strike and get like a sweet block in. I think that's probably not what you want to do as your plan A, but it's a thing you can do.
Block.
A sweet block. Get that block in.
Okay.
Right?
Right. Definitely.
It's in the range of things you might want to do.
Totally, dude. Totally. Sweet block.
But, I think that one of the highest performing cards in the humans deck has always been Mantis Rider, and Tajic has got a lot of the Mantis Rider to him.
Yep. And in fact, that actually brings me to my critique / question about this guy, concern maybe. How many Mantis Riders and Tajics are you going to play before Militia Bugler starts looking sketchy?
Well, Kevin's down to 1 Militia Bugler.
Because that's kind of the cost, right? Is that your Tajic Legion's Edge is replacing a Bugler?
Yeah.
So maybe get Thalia. You know, like there's no like if you wanted Thalia 3, which you may not, but if you did, that's costing you 2.
Well, so maybe you can summarize something for me. I have skimmed over innumerable articles and conversations, etc., between human sufficient.
You are a conversation skimmer over.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, you know, exchanges on the online between human aficionados, and some people love Militia Bugler, and some people don't think Militia Bugler is that good, which I thought was surprising. I thought Militia Bugler was really a well-suited card to humans, gave it a dimension it didn't have before. But it looks like, you know, obviously if you're playing guys that are too expensive for the Bugler, and the Bugler loses a lot of value. But I also think the Bugler just does something that the Humans deck might want to do. Like, the Humans deck is fast. It can put its foot to the floor, but it kind of just can run out also, right? There's not a lot of card draw here. So if somebody has something like, I don't know, any kind of recurring source of things that can sweep it, like is it Staticaster or a Grim Lavamancer, it can often just get stuck not being able to play stuff, and Militia Bugler gives it, you know, a little bit of oomph.
Wait. I want to make sure I understand this correctly. The reason that you like the Bugler is because of how much it helps against stuff like, is it Staticaster?
Well, I'm just saying you can be in a spot with humans that like somebody has an Staticaster or a Grim Lavamancer, they just kill all your guys.
Here's the thing. Tajic beats Is It Staticaster single-handedly, incidentally. It beats Grim Lavamancer incidentally without even trying. It also gives the deck an important, powerful dimension against things like Slagstorm. Prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control.
This makes me feel like Tajic is just going to become industry standard then.
Isn't Tajic amazing in humans? The reason I was bringing up the Bugler is at a certain point you might got to let the Bugler go. I'm saying maybe you don't. Maybe the first Bugler goes a while. I don't know. I just think that Tajic looks like he does the Bugler's job a little bit better. You have to be in the market to be grinding, I think, to want the Bugler over Tajic because of just how well Tajic... You see, Tajic as a vial, you can vial it down and counter a lightning bolt.
Yeah, that's an awesome play. That might be even better than my sweep block.
You can vial it down and be in this spot where you just... Like, you sacrifice it effectively to counter their Slagstorm. If they can't get you with Slagstorm or any of those 3 damage spells, what can they get you with? Anger of the Gods, I guess, is the big one. You know, if they can't get you with Anger of the Gods, what can they get you with?
Yeah, I think he's just going to become industry standard. I think that's really the end you know, of the line of argumentation you're making. Like, this card actually... I think that this card does what I'm imagining Bugler's job is better than Bugler, and at the same time is so much more effective offensively. Like, Tajic actually does another thing, which is he makes your little guys good, which is like one of the aspects that Thalia's Lieutenant, or, you know, some versions have Mayor of Avabrook. You know, that was like a subtle trick that the vial could give you, because like there's not a lot of you know, angles or trickery or anything or gamesmanship to the humans deck. It has really good cards, but you pretty much just put them down and slam with them. And I think that anything like the Lieutenant or Tajic that you can play at instant speed to mess up your opponent's plans, combined with the card quality of the humans deck, it just gives it something, you know, like. It gives it tempo. It takes away the opponent's turn a lot of the time. Maybe just kills them.
I also just think that if you play a turn 2 Kite Sail Freebooter or a turn 2 Meddling Mage, it's not trivial the amount of disruption you're doing. If you can just quickly turn the game into such a short order of where, like, you know, like a turn 1. Obviously, every hand is great when you open with Champion of the Parish, but like, if you just go, say you go turn 1 Noble Hierarch, turn 2 Tajic, you actually have a pretty good board presence thing going there. And I know it sounds funny because like Noble Hierarch's Exalted doesn't totally work with Mentor, but Noble Hierarch being a 0/1 that can actually get permanently buffed is like, also kind of a real thing.
I think that's absolutely fine. Slamming and just 4 on turn 2 and then creating an automatic kind of defense mechanism for the Noble Hierarch and anybody else, that's solid.
Well, because I think sometimes people, like for instance, if I'm playing a Grixis deck and I'm just putting myself I'm trying to imagine what it must be like to be a Grixis player. I, in the past, have always just slammed multiple Anger of the Gods. Is it static? All that kind of stuff is so dope. And I think that Tajic changes the equation a bit. And I think that if the other person goes, if you just go turn 2 Meddling Mage, or Freebooter, and then turn 3 Tajic, you're already putting them under the gun so much, and they can't even just anger to get out of it. Even if they're going to do something like play Damnation instead, you're slowing them down a meaningful amount.
And what if it's Thalia into Tajic, right? Like Thalia's already got like a good combat ability, slowing down spells already, and then combine that with Mentor, because Tajic's going to get at least 1 Mentor off with Thalia. Like all of a sudden, like Thalia Guardian of Thraben is like a 3/2 first strike. It's hard to defend against 2 3/2 first strikers. Hastes, Mentor, all coming in. Very very quickly. Like it's their third turn. All of a sudden, they can't really cast a spell. Maybe to kill. To kill 1 or more of your guys, or it's just costly for them to do so. They can't beat you in combat because your guys have first strike. You don't even have to commit, right? Like you don't have to do anything else. Just sit there. You have like 6 power plus already coming at them, and it's the onus is on the opponent to just get out from under the Thalia Tajic Legend combo.
Yep. So I thought this was a very impressive advancement from Kevin, and I could easily imagine this becoming widespread.
I think like 3+1 might be the thing, or maybe even 4.
I don't like getting the board. I think that it could be okay. I think that you really want to diversify what kind of your sideboard is so good in this deck.
Like I can tell you, for the longest time I've been so comfortable as a burn player in the humans matchup. But with Tajic, I think like it's very, very difficult and different. And the fact that they can Violet to counter a Searing spell, for example, is that's just enough, right? Like you might have just been like, all right, I'm very, very...
Well, the kill part of it, not the face damage.
Yeah, well, but the kill part of it is the important thing, right? That matchup is just about removing all their material and then killing them with whatever you have left over. They just have like multiple things that are better than whatever you have left over. You can't beat Tajic with a Goblin Guide, right? Like that's just not going to happen.
Tough way to do it.
Yeah.
Although, dude, Tajic works great with Goblin Guide.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I don't know, man. You could play Tajic in some kind of a burn deck.
You could make a real Boros deck, right? Like with Tajic, and there's like great white creatures.
Dude, you can like buff the step links before you sack the fetch lands. You play your fetch land, and now the Lynx is a 2/3. You buff it with Tajic, and then you crack sack, crack, fetch, take 2.
I'm in. Do we have plated Geopede in this deck? I am so in for plated Geopede. Step links, Tajic.
All that.
You laugh, but this deck probably wins on turn 4 against the Goldfish like 80% of the time.
What about Tajic with Infect, man?
I think you've gone too far now.
No, dude, Mentor counters are so sick there.
Yeah, but it's the wrong colors, and they're just completely at odds. Tajic is an offensive damage guy.
You know who's not an offensive damage guy? Knight of Autumn. It can be, but I think Knight of Autumn is just a sweet, versatile card. It may not be a human, but I like Kevin's use of 2 Knight of Autumns in the sideboard. What do you think about this over the. I mean, you could go a more human-centric approach, but I think Knight of Autumn's power is just so much higher than most of the other guys, right?
Yeah, so Knight of Autumn is already, I think, staple in humans. I saw it in multiple sideboards. I think the same way that Kevin's playing 2 copies here. It looks like it's replacing Reclamation Sage, which I believe is an elf, right? So.
Yep.
So you kind of replacing a non.
Yeah, but Reclamation Sage is still a little easier to. I guess White Man is the free one.
It's not that easier, right? Like what is there? One island in this deck that can't cast. They can't cast it. Everything else can cast it. So, so Knight of Autumn, I think, obviously awesome. It can do everything Reclamation Sage could do, and also gives you so much additional play against burn decks. Sometimes it's just a big guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a much bigger threat when it's on the backup plan, and I think that the 4 health is a very real thing.
Yeah, the more that I think about it, I don't think anybody's ever just going to make it the big guy. I think they're just going to hold it. Like if the big guy is the best play.
You'll make it the big guy sometimes. Let's say you board it in because you, like for instance, what if somebody's trying to worship you? They don't always have worship. Right? And then sometimes you're like, okay, well, you don't have worship, but you know what I need is a big threat.
Oh, it depends what the rest of your battlefield looks like, and it depends if you're casting this at instant speed or on your own turn. But I would be loath to use my only Knight of Autumn just to make a big guy and then have them cast worship after I cast it. That would be very frowned.
You don't want to just hold it. You got to commit something to the board.
What's up if you have like 2 other guys? Like this deck is rarely at a loss for not having enough guys. Like like maybe they're not a 4-3, but they're at least like a 3-2 or a 3-3. But I guess I don't know. You can Phantasmal Mage after you've played Knight of Autumn, and he can choose a different mode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of this new technology coming in is cool for these modern lists. I like it.
Yep. Now, one that we haven't got to yet, dude, Arclight Phoenix. Arclight Phoenix is already like that guy is the future. So this is that the 3 red 3/2 flying haste at the beginning of combat in your turn. If you've cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells this turn, return Arclight Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, let me give an example of how Arclight Phoenix gets down, right? So, if you go, say you go Manamorphose, say at turn 2, you go Manamorphose, Faithless Looting, anything, like a Bolt, a Serum Vision, whatever.
How about a Thought Scour?
Any of that, definitely. And then you just get your Arclight Phoenix back. And it's like a Delver that's pre-flipped and has a haste, and like it's also it just keeps coming back. This card just seems excellent, right?
I think that there's probably a new. I hate to say this word because you're just not going to like it. A new Grixis deck that can exploit Arclight Phoenix. I'm thinking Thought Scour. Cathartic Reunion and Chart a Course. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the power level of those cards.
I like Chart a Course.
I think
Chart a Course is good.
I'm close on those cards. Just all the stuff that can dump. And the reason I want to be Grixis instead of just blue red because I actually also agree that.
God, don't be Goryo's Vengeance.
No.
Thank God. Okay.
I mean, we could just slam Gurmag Angler and Tassiger basically for free. Like our great.
Yeah, but we don't need to. We can also do that. Yeah, but we don't need to, dude. There's so many Izzet cards already. Bedlam Reveler?
Okay. I mean, this is probably a heck of a Monastery Swiftspear deck.
It could be. I don't know. See, I don't know how. I think that you might be conceptualizing it like in sort of the old paradigm, the pre-Arclight Phoenix days. Like, I kind of think that the new Arclight Phoenix decks are not going to want a small ball. Arclight Phoenix is the only threat you need.
Really?
I'm saying, but like, it doesn't have to. I'm not saying that's the only one you put in your deck. I'm saying if you draw one Arclight Phoenix and no other threats, that could be enough. Like, for instance, what if you just played? Okay, how about Everett Moten's top 16 deck from the Open? He played 4 Arclight Phoenix, 4 Bedlam Reveler, 4 Thing in the Ice, and 2 Jace Vryn's Prodigy. No small ball, all must-kill threats. And the Arclight Phoenix, Bedlam Reveler, Thing in the Ice, they're not easy to kill. Arclight Phoenix is not. He could work in small ball too. It could be the Monastery Swift Spear is enough too. But like, I think you're going to want to just be. You're going to want to be churning. I think you want to emphasize the amount that you're Bedlam Reveling, because I think Bedlam Reveler is just so sick with Arclight Phoenix. The ability to start stacking up more and more of these things.
Yeah, I can see that. I was thinking like the 1/3 wizard that has prowess and haste, like. My concept, and maybe I'm just wrong about this, is that you have all these super cheap, but like relatively high impact instants and sorceries that cost anywhere from 0. Like Manamorphose, has a printed casting cost of 2, but it's effectively 0. To Thought Scours, Lightning Bolts, all kinds of stuff that's just super cheap that you can stack together. That to me says especially in combination with Arclight Phoenix, which is a haste creature. Let's just put 20 haste guys next to this and then 20 super cheap enabling spells and just go to town on the opponent's face. That was my thing.
Yeah, but like, I think every single non-spell, every single non-sorcery or instant you play is like, they add up. They add up pretty hard.
Slowing us down too much.
Like, I think you want to make sure you want to be long on sorceries and instants when you have Arclight Phoenix. So I don't know. I would want to. I don't think Arclight Phoenix wants to try to win on turn 4. I think they want to fight through removal effortless. I think they want to fight. They want to face somebody who's fighting back and still kill them turn 6 or 7. You know what I mean? Like, be just resilient and very reliable.
I'm just thinking about how this will play out. I mean, obviously the Phoenix is really powerful. If you draw it, it's just a great card to discard to Faithless Looting. What about risk factor in this deck, Patrick? I could risk factor a Fiery Temper.
Yeah, maybe that's good.
I mean, it's got to be better than in the Jund deck.
That's not the bar. That's not the bar, Michael J.
I mean, he won that tournament.
I'm not saying he didn't, man.
He won it. He's the champion.
I know.
He's got the crown on.
He could have been right for the day. I'm just saying that's not the bar for determining what goes in the Is It Arclight Phoenix deck, man. Dude, can we put Experimental Frenzy in this bad Mama Jama? That's probably just too slow.
I mean, this would be a great deck for Experimental, or kind of a great shell deck concept for Experimental Frenzy, except for you're just going to accumulate all these cards in hand that you can't cast. I think that's what's going to end up happening, and then you're just going to get stuck with the Phoenix in your hand, and you're not going to be able to get rid of it.
No, you're right. How about these surgical extractions, man? If you go turn 1 Faithless Looting, and then surgical twice, the first time for one of the other cards you discarded, the second time for the Faithless Looting, for the surgical, the first surgical. Yes. So I don't know, man. I think Arclight Phoenix looks dope.
You spent a lot of resources to get a 3/2 into play, if that's what
Yes.
4 life and 4 cards? I think it's 4 cards and 4 life to do what you want, right?
1 does not count so high.
Yeah. we still got 2 cards left. Yeah, I think that Arclight Phoenix is super exciting. I love what it. I'd be really happy to see what it ends up doing. I look at this deck though, and I'm like, does it have enough punching power to beat Tron? Like, it doesn't have any of the cards that I would actually want to beat Tron.
Assassin's Trophy is in the format. That's part of your plan.
You're going to just worry about other people taking care of Tron.
Yes. Yes, let the other people do the dirty work. That's the theory. I'm not saying that I would believe it.
I don't know. There's just not a blood moon, not a molten rain, just not a negate, right?
Well, at a certain point, give up.
You think that Everart just went out just all right, I'm just never going to beat Tron? That can't be your strategy. Tron's one of the most popular decks.
Here's an Arclight Phoenix deck that might be a little bit more palatable for your predilections. Kelby Fetter's 4th place deck from the IQ. So the same so we got 4 Arclight Phoenix and we've got Bedlam Reveler, which you so love. But instead of Thing in the Ice or Jace, he's playing Monastery Swift Spear and Runaway Steamkin. And then instead of cantrips, this deck has 4 Lava Spikes, 4 Desperate Rituals, 3 Risk Factors, 2 Tormenting Voice, plus the 4 Faithless Looting and 4 Lightning Bolt and 4 Metamorphose and 2 Fiery Temper. I would play 4 Fiery Temper at a certain point, but dude, this is the Risk Factor Fiery Temper deck, man.
This deck is like a meatball sundae. It's so many things that I like, but I don't like them together.
What? Dude, Lava Spike.
Whipped cream on ground beef is what this looks like to me.
Dude, isn't this so sick, right? If you've got Runaway Steamkin is an excellent way to power your Bedlam Reveler faster, right?
This is a format where, God bless him. If your opponent cannot...
Are you telling me this deck is not your fantasy?
No.
He's even got 2 Blood Moons in the sideboard.
No way, man. Look, when I play
whoa. Yeah. He can't really have an extirpate. What the... What? That's got to be a typo.
He's got Bloodstained Mire.
He doesn't have any... He has none. No Blood Crypts. None. The extirpate's got to be a typo.
Or maybe the Bloodstained Mires are Blood Crypts? I don't know.
What if the Bloodstained Mires are Bloodstained Mires and he just leaves the extirpate on top of the sideboard for the classic 1995 World Championship move?
Tom Champagne them.
Even before. But yes, yeah.
He next level Champagne them.
Blumkey. No, it's Blumkey.
Well, Champagne had the sleight of mind in his deck that he couldn't cast because he forgot to put Adrakar Waste.
That's different. Blumkey did it on purpose, at least. But anyway, yeah. Dude, you're telling me you're not in for this?
No way.
Why? This is everything you were just talking about, plus Lava Spike.
Yeah, but you can't...
And Desperate Ritual. Desperate Ritual is a wild pairing with Lava Spike, by the way.
Yeah, you're just going to draw, these cards don't make any sense together. Desperate Ritual barely makes sense in Storm, right?
Dude, this deck goes so fast and hard. Turn 1. Don't Lava Spike. You're going to need that. Right? So hold it. Right? And then turn 2, Steamkin. Turn 3, Desperate Ritual, Faithless Looting, Lava Spike. I don't know, man.
Your Kelby Fetter fantasy, I've already untapped with Steamkin.
I'm not sure this is crazy. This is kind of crazy. I'm not sure this is bad. This seems exciting.
I grant you it's exciting. I really like ground beef, and I really like ice cream. I like both of those things. I need to have
that.
I need to have a 5-minute break between my ground beef and my ice cream.
All right, dude. What are you more in the space of Christian Reidnor's 2nd place deck? He's playing a burn deck. Looks like every deck you've ever played, except he's got 4 risk factors in it.
I hadn't really thought about risk factor in Modern Burn.
What?
Nah.
That's really. Got to be the single best place to play it.
Yeah.
Why would it not be? Are you kidding?
It's a little expensive.
It's not just deal 4. Dude, first of all, you're not even that far off of just 3 mana deal 4 in the first place. They can't let you draw 3 cards. That's if they let you draw 3 cards, they're going to take 7.
Just dead. Yeah, but in order to make room for that, he cut Swift Spear, which is like the 3rd best card in the deck.
You can cut something else. That's fine. I'm saying that, like, this deck has been consistently 56 cards for a long time.
Yeah.
You can make room for the risk factor, and then when you start to flood out, you get to discard a land and turn it into a deal 4.
Well, it's not like risk factor is an instant or something. Oh, wait.
Dude, I think risk factor is the first thing I've seen in a while that makes me think that burn might not be an embarrassing choice. Wow. I would play, dude. Risk factor seems dope in this deck.
Well, I'll have to try it out myself. I've actually gone the opposite direction in burn recently, so which is like a way. So risk factor costs 3. Like I've lowered my curves. I think that you tend to win more when you just play a ton of 1-mana spells. So I've been just curbing my 2-mana spells.
Dude, I think risk factor looks dope in this deck.
Maybe risk factor is good enough that will reverse my decision way back the other way. I mean, like, I just would rather cut Skullcrack and still have.
Dude, you can cut Skullcrack. That's fine. He's got Skullcracks. You can cut him. Cut the 2 Lavamancers and the 2 Skullcracks for 4 Swift Spears, or cut 2 Skullcracks, 1 Lavamancer, and 1 of the risk factors. Maybe I don't think you have to play 4 risk factors.
I think
it's really expensive.
I probably cut 2 Rift Bolts or 2 Lightning Helixes and the Skullcracks.
No, dude. No, don't cut Lightning Helix.
Or Rift Bolt. Rift Bolt's.
I would keep Rift Bolt. Don't cut Rift Bolt. I would cut Skullcrack.
I'm definitely cutting Skullcrack. I need 2 more cards.
No, you can start with 2 risk factors. See if you like them. You really want to play 2 Grim Lavamancers?
Yeah, like Humans is the most popular deck. I mean, it's one.
Tajic. Cut 2 of something, but I'm just saying. I think the second risk factor you draw is a lot worse than the first. So I actually don't think it's crazy to just play 2 risk factors.
Yeah, I could get behind that. I think the risk factor instead of Skullcrack and just sideboard the cracks for blue-white or whatever.
Yep, crack it up, crack it open.
Yeah, I guess if I think back to like any of my recent tournament losses, just an extra 2 deal 4s in my hand would have probably been enough to instant speed. Like you could even pick a fight.
Yeah, the only reason I'm saying that you don't necessarily want to snap off 4 though is just because of how much it sure does cost 6 to do it. Right, like that's it's a little slower than I normally like to play my Lava Spike decks.
Yeah, the other thing is like you're often like, skin of your teeth winning. Like you don't beat Tron with 3 casting cost burn spells. Like that's like they're already worm coiling you at that point. You got to bury them in 1 and 2 casting cost spells.
Dude, are you ready for a hot take? A hot take in Modern.
Always.
One copy of Invent. I want to just deal. I want to deal X. I want to replace my Sphinx's Rev with a Fireball Sphinx Rev.
In which deck? In
Jeskai.
In Jeskai.
Yeah, I want to get to playtest with. I want to playtest with some of the new Invent and Vert. Here's the thing. Realistically, let's be serious. We're just going to cut it for a Teferi or a Jace. But what if we don't? What if the fork aspect is actually just like secretly just live, right? Like that's just what's popping. You're just going to be like expansion explosion, not Invent. I want to be expansion explosioning and dealing X, because I think it's not even about the deal X. I mean, it is, but everybody knows it. It's about the fork. I want a fork, man.
Well, there are a lot of good things you might want to fork.
Yeah, that's why I want to do it. I want to have some fun forking things before I cut it and put another Teferi or Jace in my deck.
And the other side is very powerful, right? Like, certainly you have a high expectation of just getting to a point in the game where you've got like 11 land in play. So. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think that I would be, I'm not really into Sphinx's Rev right now, but I would give Expansion Explosion a roll of the dice, give it a shot. If nothing else, that's got to be a fun card to play with before cutting for Jace or Teferi.
Like the 2 minutes that it's in your deck.
It's not going to be in 2 minutes. I'm going to enjoy that for a couple days. And then just before the Pro Tour, switch to another Jason Teferi.
Yeah.
Realistically. So I don't know, man. I think it's pretty clear that Guilds of Ravnica is already having an impact. Do you like? Is there anywhere else in particular that you're seeing it? I mean, like Night of Autumn's got to be showing up in more places than just like humans, right? Like,
oh, sure. I mean, like, you know, we haven't seen some of the other decks completely come out yet. You know, look what like if you look at Ridley Scott's deck from I think the same tournament, third place Abzan deck. Ridley had 2 copies of Night of Autumn in the main deck, alongside 3 copies of Assassin's Trophy in the main deck. So, you know, if there are folks who like the Abzan, you know, I think you maybe have cast an Abzan card or 2 in your time. There's lots of stuff for them to be enjoying in the modern format. You know, from Guilds of Ravnica.
Yep. Dude, what about Crackling Drake combo?
I know what all of those words mean. You're gonna have to lace it a little bit more tightly together for me.
Well, like, so for instance, it's not legal in Modern, but like, imagine if you could just play with Demonic Consultation. You could just name a card that you don't have, flip your whole deck, and your Crackling Drake attack for a DI.
Well,
because Crackling Drake, unlike its predecessors, counts your exile, not just your graveyard.
Yep. I love a Demonic Consultation. As you know, I would play it anytime they let me. So they stopped letting me.
Yeah, but that's not the only... Demonic Consultation is not the only Demonic Consultation. Right? Like, for instance, what about that demon? You know, like, flip your whole deck. Or is that guy just too bad on his own?
You could dredge hard, right? I mean, maybe what if you just dredge?
Well, if you dredge, then it's just like everything else. I want to do it all at once. If you just dredge, then you could do everything. You could do anything you want if you just dredge.
Yeah, I guess you could just like dredge everything, and then like it's no different than having like an anger and a whatever.
No, just if you like
whatever guy.
Yeah, it's you know, anything is possible. If you just dredge, it's like dropping out of school to play cards professionally. It'll all just work out really well for you.
Yeah. I as far as I can tell, there's like 100% likelihood of that being the case.
Yeah, roughly.
I mean, you have some adventures along the way.
Not dropping out of school. To stay in school. I don't know. I can't even, with a straight face, tell anybody to stay in school. There's got to be a way to exile your cards much more efficiently, though, right? Yeah.
Well, what about Scavenging Ooze?
No. I don't think you understand.
The opposite of efficiently.
But that's also creatures.
Oh, that's
right. Like, I mean, I don't know, man. I want to just be playing with sorceries and instants, and I want to deal 20 when I attack with my Crackling Drake.
What about, like, Rest in Peace?
That's okay. That's not very efficient, though, because it's the same as what was already going to go on. I want to flip them all, man. You know what I mean? Like, I want to have, like... I want to just push the button and flip 20 at the same time.
Yeah?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's okay to small ball and be like, oh, well, surgical extraction, my own lightning bolts. Surprise. What extra damage. You know, that's okay, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. I want to go hard. I want to exile my deck out of nowhere. I just want to have the option.
All right. How about this? This is when I say a little bit different, I mean it's like 30 degrees different, but it's on the same page of what you're saying.
Go on.
What if we start off with your Arclight Phoenix ideas, right? And we just sideboard Crackling Drake for the grinds.
What does that have to do with exiling my deck?
I don't know, man. It's just a lot of the cards go together, and the Crackling Drake would make sense there, and you can cast it.
Okay.
That's the best I can do. I don't know how to Demonic Consultation my cards in Modern. I feel like if they could do that, then there would already be a deck that did that.
Maybe.
Like, because that seems like an extraordinarily powerful effect that you could exploit. Just the ability to remove something substantial. What about? I don't know if that card legal. Haunting Echoes is not legal, right?
Dude, you're real focused on the graveyard. I think where you need to be at
is exile.
Right, and obviously modern as opposed to Haunting Echoes would be sick. Okay, here's one.
Block constructed.
Dude, how about this one? Spoils of the Vault.
Spoils of the Vault. So
all you need is a way to not die, and you can just spoil for a card you don't have.
So can you just do it with the one white card that you can't lose this turn? What's the name of that card?
Angel's Grace.
Angel's Grace.
You could do that, dude. You could also just spoils for a card you do have. Like, what if instead of getting fancy, what if you just spoils for a card you do have? And then, like, maybe you take 13. But that's like, if you're taking 13, they're taking, like, damn near 9. Plus, you got whatever cards you wanted. Dude, that actually sounds sick.
Maybe it was Angel's Grace. What if I spoiled for Angel's Grace?
I don't know, man. What about Inverter of Truth, though? Like, we talked about that earlier. If you just Inverter of Truth and you can just exile all the cards from your library face down, then shuffle. Oh, God, face down. They thought of it. Damn. Brutal. Face down. Face down. Gotta get the errata up. All right, man. I don't know. We gotta figure out a different angle though, because we haven't even touched on everything that's possible in modern with this set. For instance, what about Lava Coil, man? Is Lava Coil just outclassed by things?
I don't think Lava Coil is going to be a big.
You don't think that's ever a sideboard option?
I mean, it might be but what deck are you going to play it in, right? Like the Boros deck can already play Path and.
I'm saying now with so many Arclight Phoenixes and such. Yeah, like, let's say that you
pass them if you're Boros.
Yeah, if you're Boros, but what if you're like a red-green deck that uses Scape Shift?
Do you think that a red-green deck that uses Scape Shift is really worried about killing a Phoenix?
I don't know, man.
I think they'd just be worried about getting their Scape Shift.
They already play Roast.
All right. I guess this is like not much worse than Roast. Like, what has 5 toughness that you might want to roast?
That you can actually roast. Siege Rhino is the answer, but like...
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't roast some things that cost 5 because of its targeting limitation, right? But Lava Coil can hit... I mean, people aren't even playing very many Siege Rhinos in Abzan.
All right, dude. What about Conclave Tribunal? That card's got to be an option.
Like, what archetype? Humans?
Could be. Humans is my first thought. The fact that you can cast it without needing any land that produces any mana, that's kind of interesting.
I mean, well, you will have had to have some land ahead of time in order to get something going on there, but yeah, I take your meaning. It's obviously, in a format full of awesome permanents, the ability to deal with almost any awesome permanent at a very low cost is very attractive, which is one of the reasons why Assassin's Trophy is so exciting, right? This is an Assassin's Trophy-esque card.
Yeah. What about the Venerated Luxodon in a Winding Constrictor or even just a Hardened Scales deck?
Oh, that is interesting. In Hardened Scales, man.
Yeah.
If you get the mana right, that's really, really could be impressive.
That's kind of, there's something sexy about that.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, if you're on the team of I want to play fair, but I want to play fair spectacularly, I think those two things, they go together all right. Maybe this is a different colors, but on a similar note, maybe close out with Javier Balderramos' Scred Red deck. Did you check this deck out? So this
How did I know?
A fair deck with a capital F. I like it contextually because Anger of the Gods and main deck Relic of Progenitus anticipate this dredge performance, and I kind of like that. But the real question I had is, main deck and sideboard Squee Goblin the Bob, what is going on here? Look, why?
Value. Next question.
For what value? Discarding it to hazard it?
To Liliana.
To somebody else's Liliana. I mean, it's like it's only good with he's got the 6 casting cost Chandra, 1 copy, and hazard
against their Liliana, man.
That cannot be the reason.
Sometimes every man has his breaking point. Sometimes you've just discarded enough and you just don't want to take it anymore.
Okay. I mean, like, this is an extraordinarily inefficient way to break Hazoret, just to start.
Right, but it's for the Liliana, or else it'd just be main deck.
It doesn't make sense. There are 2 in the main deck.
Dude, what about Pelt Collector out of the elf decks? That's got to be an option, right?
Oh, sure, yeah. That just gives it another dimension. I mean, actually, that gives it an awesome dimension.
Yeah.
So you don't have a better answer for me than somebody else's Liliana. The Squee is killing me. I'm dead.
Then cut it, man. Dude, what about Niv Mizzet Perun? Why is nobody talking about Niv Mizzet Perun? This guy's like having a Niv Mizzet and a Curiosity at the same time.
It's like having all the Niv Mizzets stapled together on the squad together at the same time for you at a more efficient mana cost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It seems like he's really hard to cast. Like, Jeskai would have a hard time casting that card.
He seems really hard to cast.
Like, is it... I feel like it's like a dedicated Izzet deck could theoretically cast that card if they got to the right number of lands. But that's actually an if. Right? I feel like the Izzet decks that we talk about are often, like, playing at a high level of competence, but with not very many lands in play.
Dude, what about the Boros Terminate? Justice Strike. The only problem with Justice Strike is that it can't kill a Tarmogoyf, which is like totally one of the important things to do with a Terminate.
I mean, I don't like it very much. Maybe it would be better in a deck with Snapcaster Mage. But if you were just like mono Boros colors, which is basically the opposite of mono because it's 2, if you're just a red-white deck, the other options are all so much better. You can just play like Path to Exile or Chain to the Rocks and not worry about whether or not you can target that thing. And in fact, if you're playing an aggro deck, just costing 1 is such an advantage over something that costs 2. And it's also too, I guess it's not fair to say too dedicated, because just having like a Chain to the Rocks implies that you have red, even though it's only a white card. I don't like it. I think maybe in a Snapcaster Mage deck, but even then, I think you probably have better options.
Okay, one last tip: Golgari, and it's not even about the idea of using the Golgari Kolaghan's command, Find Finality. I'm talking instead in Modern, where the mana is so good, it just like grows on trees. It's status stature. Like if you status statue the Goblin Chain Whirler, you can actually pull it off in Modern. It's not necessarily out of the question, man.
Wait, you want to pay 4 mana to do an Assassin's Trophy in Modern?
No, not Assassin's Trophy.
No, I know, but that's what statue.
I want to pay 4 mana when I'm on. That's the backup plan. I want to just give my Chain Whirler Death Touch so that I can just sweep the board of all my problems and cares and worries.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's a...
Dude, goblins. It's just goblins splash these colors.
That's probably a thing you can do. It's no crazier than, putting together a basilisk collar and was the little gun effect.
You're talking about the Cunning Spark Mage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no crazier than that.
All right. Well, definitely a lot, and I'm going to be excited to see what what we have in the near future.
So
my head though, I gotta break standard open for this.
Nearest future for me. There's a Grand Prix in my backyard this weekend, so I will play in it. It is a standard Grand Prix.
Nice.
Very excited.
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play Dredge, so jailer hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis state. Lost a lot of friends, got left